Welcome back. This is KTN Prime. We continue with our deliberations right here in studio, centered on the state of politics in the country, where we're canvassing a couple of issues. The Northeastern Development Tour by President William Ruto and the political connotations it has. Not just that, IEBC's election panel has hit the ground running. They have less than 90 days to form a commission, and they'll forward the shortlisted names to the president so he can name the commissioners and the CEO at IEBC. So I'd like us to delve into matters IEBC right now. And Wakili, what happens when we go into an election without boundaries review? We've heard of the process. It should be concluded by August 2026, 1 year before the election. Can the commission proceed to have boundaries reviewed even after August 2026?
They can proceed, but with what effect, or for when, for which elections? Because if they are focusing on 2027 elections, there are timelines. There are some preparations that have to be done before that election. That said, I do not think we have a crisis, and here is why. The Constitution says what will happen if the boundaries are not reviewed. It says what will happen to those constituencies. They'll simply disappear from the map.
What do you mean?
And that's a crisis.
No, there's no crisis. I mean, let's come to it. What was the... You know, sometimes we need to be very consistent in terms of what was the intention of the framers of the Constitution. They kept on saying that there should be equality in representation.
True.
And that if numbers are not there, then you don't have the constituency. So if we keep that doctrine going, then the reason for boundaries review is so that you can keep on making sure that representation is equal in terms of numbers and so on. Okay. Now, if that doesn't happen, it means that the constituencies that don't fit, don't match the number, will then either, will be, of course, swallowed, or swallowed as he puts it. The point for me is that that does not represent a crisis, because these constituencies are somewhere in a county, somewhere where human beings or where Kenyans are, where services are being rendered. The next thing I'm going to talk about is, with the 250, or the so-called legislators, for a population that we have, representation is not an issue. There, in Nairobi here, we want to create members of parliament. To do, what are they supposed to do?
But allow me to interject. If you have a constituency, let's say one has 3 wards. If you go to yet a different constituency, some have up to 7, is it 6 wards? The population is busting. So, I mean, if it's up to do with proper representation and all that, well, one side is a little bit affected.
There is, you might be right, but there's something about representation. It's not necessarily just about population.
Yeah.
It's about density, and it's about the needs of the people. For example, do the people in Nairobi, in their millions, require representation in the same way in which people in rural areas require that representation? My answer is no. Nairobi here, how much is the governor spending on development, and how much is he capable of spending on development anyway? The answer is that with a capital city like this, you want to treat it like a county in a rural area, and you are giving them the same allocation, different needs. What are they likely to be spending on? In Nairobi, where do you build schools? Where do you build toilets? Where do you do what? In the rural areas, in Turkana and so on, where you're supposed to be doing schools, you see money is there, but the schools are not coming through. So there is a whole different conversation that we should be having.
Okay.
To talk about constitutional crisis is, to me, a red herring. The issue is
not.
Yeah, let me advance this. The issue is, what is the principle, or what is the doctrine, or what is our ideology about representation? If it's just about numbers and boundaries moving around, then there will be a crisis. But for me, I don't think so.
It is a crisis, in the sense that the process of the disappearance of those constituencies that do not have numbers has not been defined. The only way in which it would be definitive would be if the IEBC reviewed the boundaries. The alternative of those constituencies just withering away like the Marxist state is not there. How do you wake up one day and tell the people of a certain small constituency, and now I don't want to name any, because they might accuse me when they start disappearing.
And you might want to field their candidate.
Yes, we will be fielding there. How do you tell them that now your constituency is no longer there, that you do not have the numbers? What parameters are you going to employ? And while we are at that, remember that we are in space where the question of population distribution in the country is already opening up as the Pandora box. We are already being told that in some parts of the country, they are going to have to redo the census because the people who are in charge of statistics in the country are themselves telling us that the figures in the year 2019 were tinkered with, they were tampered with deliberately and with the knowledge of the relevant state organs. We are in an environment where some are even suggesting that some borders are being opened up so that people from neighboring countries can also come in and beef up the numbers within certain constituencies. And Dr. Olo has talked about porous borders. So we have a double-pronged crisis, part of it legal, part of it political. Okay. And in fact, when we talk about averting a crisis, we're already in a crisis in the sense that this thing should have been done after the 10th year, and if not so, after the 12th year. And we have gone way beyond the 12th year. So we are already in a crisis situation.
So, Dr. Olo Akili, how important is the interpretation of the Supreme Court on this matter of boundaries? Because just recently, the Attorney General moved to court to block IEBC's advisory request on boundary delimitation. And as I ask this question, it's two-pronged, because there are those who believe that, you know, as the law has envisioned, the commissioners should be the ones undertaking this very touchy process when it comes to delimitation of boundaries. Do you think that the Secretariat can do such a job? Take that task, for example, from where you sit with your legal expertise?
Absolutely not. In fact, we do have, you know, talk about constitutional crisis. The issue of about IEBC in the Constitution, it's not even the chairman of IEBC. It's the commission, which is commissioners and the chairman. Yes. So that even the chairman cannot and should never pronounce himself without the authority of the commission in terms of resolutions of the commission. And so we've seen our previous friend, Wafula Chebukati, simply missing the script by pretending or appearing to be saying that he was the returning officer. There is no such constitutional mandate that has been given to a chairman. So quite a bit of things there. Yes, I agree. It was a waste of time for the Secretariat to go to ask the Supreme Court for an advisory opinion, because the Secretariat is not clothed with the mandate of a commission to that extent. The IEBC is not Secretariat. It is the commissioners and the chair. So that opinion, as they were seeking it, it was likely to fall flat on its face because they would have been told no. And you've seen numerous cases before that were lost because at the point at which, say, the EACC was making a decision, there were no commissioners in office. So in terms of the law, the Constitution, again, the same applies to the IEBC. No decisions can be made without the commission being in place. So yes, there is a crisis in that respect. Having said that, My view would be that we actually also need to look at what we call the IEBC. Many countries and bigger democracies run elections. More recently, the US has run elections. I'm not sure you heard that there is this role of this independent elections committee. The thing is run at those levels, the federal levels, the counties, and it's run very well. India runs elections with 3 commissioners, and the rest of the elections are run. Yeah. Here, we want tribal barons. We want every region to bring us 9, a commission. So you think those people are they're going to be a commission, or they're going to be a cabal of people representing interests sitting there, including political party interests, tribal interests, regional interests? That is not what we will save us. So, with or without commissioners, the issue of IEBC is overrated when it comes to our politics, because our politics are decided with or without the referee.
Okay, interesting. As we come to you, Dr. Muluka, the IEBC selection panel is definitely working round the clock. I'd like your take on their impartiality, because at the end of the day, there might be overtures from the political class in terms of trying to influence the way their decision goes when it comes to the shortlisted candidates for IEBC commissioners. What do you envision in the next 80 days that might play out in terms of the political class trying to influence who exactly makes it to the commission?
I envisage demonstration of learning, of education, of growth, that the people who are involved both with the selection and those who will be eventually given the jobs, that they can take lessons from history, that they can see what happened to Samuel Kivuitu Commission, they can see what happened to the Isaac Hassan Commission, they can see what happened between Chebukati and Ezra Chiluba, and eventually to the Chebukati Commission. And they must know that their integrity as individuals is on the weighing scales of justice. Okay. And that if they go around pussyfooting and hobnobbing with the political class and succumbing to their whims, at personal level, there is personal liability, whether it is that you will just dissolve into opprobrium, into shame, into scandal, that there's a price to pay, and that you don't play up to the political class. Yes, politician A may have nominated you, there may have been contestation before the courts, as we have seen, but when you get there, think also about your skin, because as you suffer the consequences, those people will not be anywhere near you. I expect that there's going to be that growth. Okay. But if not, yes, please remind me.
There are no consequences, because Chiloba, after being kicked out of IBC, got a job, was as general secretary in C. Now he's in the US as our ambassador. And then I haven't finished. And Chibukati, the wife, got a job. So there are also returns when you play along.
Low-hanging fruits.
You know, Martin, some years back, I published a book by a certain Ben Armtobwa of Dar es Salaam. It was titled Pesa Zako Zinanuka. And if you are not able to appreciate that kuna pesa zinanuka, that is the opprobrium that I'm talking about. And I know there are people who do not really mind about something called shame, about opprobrium. They are quite comfortable. They'll say, I've got a job here. They have no scruples. We have got those kinds of individuals, I do not doubt. Okay. But that said and done, we must also recognize that we have an emerging generation of Kenyans that is very keen on on integrity.
Right.
And I would encourage that generation of Kenyans not to give up in spite of abductions, in spite of all the suffering, the attrition. It's a part of it. The reason some of us who speak with a lot of candor about the goings-on in the country is to encourage the youth of this country in the knowledge that they are not alone, that eventually that which we call Gen Z morphs from a demographic, historical demography in terms of age to become an idea, to become a spirit. And that spirit that we call Gen Z is going to sweep away all these people who embrace opprobrium without batting an eyelid.
Interesting. So, Wakili, as we finalize on this IEBC issue, is it practical thinking to believe that we can solve the boundaries delimitation by next year, August 2026, while preparing for an election in 2027, which is no mean task? And mind you, borrowing from what he mentioned, that Northeastern Court ruling, that the Garissa, High Court in Garissa, that actually ruled that the Northeastern region census was erroneous. If the results of such a process are wrong, what stops a Kenyan from going to court to contest the process of delimitation of boundaries if we don't get it right, since we're a litigious country, as
No,
I say?
litigation and petitions and constitutional, arbitrations are part of who we are.
Okay.
Even now, as we speak,
Yeah.
and not everything that Trump is doing is going without a challenge in court. Even the executive orders are being challenged in court and so on. So this is what we are. We've given ourselves a constitution. It's very progressive. We must litigate around it. So I have no problem any Kenyan going to court and challenging. As a matter of fact, there will be challenges because already time has expired. The time for the 10 years and the 12 years is gone. So even if we got an IEBC today and it wants to try the process of boundaries, it is likely to run into headwinds. For me, I don't think that the first priority IEBC should have is the boundaries. The first priority is to see whether they can hold a credible and fair election in 2027. That's the main issue.
And registering
But
voters.
again, I can tell you, the IEBC that we'll see, and you know these days I'm beginning to get into the annals of minor prophets. So the IEBC,
Prophet
minor. Yeah. So the IEBC that we'll find
Yes.
will not be capable of running a free and fair elections in 2027. Reasons are very clear. You need time. You need preparations. You need capacity. None of those guys has run an election. Most of the people we are going to see, they are going to be, and there will even be some lawyers, there will even be some accountants, there will be some professionals, but not election experts.
Okay.
So they would need to understand what election is about. So there's a lot of learning, a lot of, I don't want to say benchmarking because we like going to see other people's things and we learn nothing there.
All right.
But there will be a lot of learning.
Go shopping.
Yeah. Having said that, it is also true that it's a script. The people who want a weak IEBC are working on it now. So you'll see the result when you see it, and you'll see the cabinet's secretary for treasury or holding back on passes. When they want to do this, they'll be told, no, there's no money. So basically you'll find an IEBC that will be panicking towards 2027, ill-equipped. And generally you'll find security forces and other apparatus that are so well heeled that they will be telling them, no, do this, do that. So there will be no independent IEBC. Take it from me today. And that if we are looking to build our democracy, it is not in the kind of IEBC that we will see and that we are likely to see coming out of our constitutional processes.
Okay, I'm just trying to juxtapose what you've said with some of the sentiments we've seen from abrasive leaders that we will make sure Ruto wins, hata kama ni kujaza kura. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
That's the only truth they're having. Okay.
Barack Muluka, as we finalize, I'm tempted to talk about the elusive dream of a united opposition against President William Ruto. They mentioned that they aim to make him a one-term president. And I was just reading through the Sunday Standard, and your article definitely highlighted some intrigues around the political games we're seeing playing on this issue. And I'll ask you your same question. Do you believe they have what it takes to make Ruto a one-term president? Or are they just ventilating political bravado, as you said?
I did not say that they were ventilating political bravado.
Or hot air.
Or hot air. Mm-hmm. I think I used that as part of framing up, as part of problematizing the issues, whether they had what it takes or whether they were just ventilating political bravado. Yeah, so you have to
context
frame the question, to problematize it, and then you deal with it. But I would want to appreciate the opposition first and foremost, not as a group of individual elite politicians who come together and call themselves the opposition or style themselves as the opposition, but I would look at the opposition as the entire body within the Kenyan populace who are unhappy with the things that President William Ruto and Kenya Kwanza are doing.
Okay.
And therefore, whether those persons could meaningfully come together under some arrangement, and now that is perhaps where the political leadership comes into the frame, but recognizing that there is all this disquiet within the country. If you have read today's press, you have seen the catalogue of unhappiness, the promises around which unhappiness has evolved. You listen to people everywhere, they are unhappy. But are they capable of actually sending President Ruto home? Look at the Gen Zs. How many of them are going to register as citizens first? Because they're there, we know they're born in the country, we may know who their parents are, but there are certain things which they must do before they can become voters. Are they going to register as voters? They're being told they have to pay a certain amount of money before they can get a national identification card. They're even being told they must first of all bring a birth certificate to get that national ID card. Those who lost their cards have to pay 1,000 Kenya shillings. There are these questions of delays in the IEBC processes, and they're the ones who eventually must verify the registers. There must be something called voter education, which should be happening from one election to the other without being rushed in the dying hours of the ending dispensation. There are questions sometimes of overloading registration of voters in certain regions that are seen to be regime-friendly while making it difficult for some areas. There are questions of even distortion of the identification cards themselves. The name is Martin Olo, the photograph is Jesse Rogers, the gender is female, the fellow is male. The cards are sent to Malindi when they should be going to Butere, and so on and so forth. So there's all that concern about voter suppression.
Okay.
And these are things which Kenyans must think about.
So it's not just about the individuals. Olo, as we finalize, your take on the united opposition.
The only hope we have, or the only chance anybody would have to change this government is to have a one group or a one person or a one candidate facing Ruto. That is what NAC did for Uhuru, who was the favored candidate for Kanu, and that's how Kibaki won. I think it is not lost on anybody who knows what William Ruto is capable of doing, that you don't go to him divided, because he'll help you to go into Smith's Creek. He'll divide you even more. He is not ready to lose, and that let's agree. He's not a Democrat. He has never said he is. Never. Where has he ever said he's a Democrat? So,
in the name of his party.
And I forget, right? Every party has democracy in it except yours. But
Mine has unity.
Unity,
Summit,
yeah.
and talking about unity, President Ruto has united us against
if you look at his friends and if you look at their pronouncements,
Yes.
they will work to retain the position at any cost. Now, compare what is happening in the cabinet today between Justice Justin Muturi and the cabinet, and compare when the deputy president of Jubilee Party used to be the opposition inside that party. And some of these things come back to play. I want to see him taking action on Muturi, which will show that he's not a Democrat if he does that. But if he's a Democrat, he say, look, the gentleman is free to talk what he wants to say. But for now, let's prepare ourselves for cutthroat, holding on to power. There is even a danger that if they were to lose power, they will not hand over. So those things are all in play, because it depends. If they don't want to lose,
Kenyans would never allow them.
no, but they will have to wrestle it from their mouths. Yeah.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure hosting these two Daktaris in studio, Dr. Martin Olo and Dr. Barak Muluka. Definitely, we appreciate your input and your time as well. You're busy gentlemen. So that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of KTN Prime. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're adequately informed. My name is Jesse Rogers. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Meresha Owiti. Have yourself a good night and a great continuation to the week.